In order to not make our acquisition and conversion efforts go to waste, we have to keep our donors giving and get them to give more generously. As I mentioned, we talked about the A section of the flux capacitor of online revenue maximization. Historically, that has been represented by average gift in a one-time encounter, but we can also think about this in terms of annual revenue, right? How much do we get donors to give each year? How do we get donors to continue to give year after year? And this really focuses on two primary areas of fundraising. Number one is retention. How can we keep the donors that we have? So going back to some of the conversion elements that we talked about, cultivation, new content offers, fundraising appeals, fundraising campaigns, we should continue to include our existing donors in those initiatives so that we can continue to get them opportunities to contribute and give. Do we need to be careful about it? Yes. Do we need to make sure that they're not overwhelmed by fundraising appeals? Yes. Do we need to continue to have a high cultivation to appeal ratio in order to keep them informed? Absolutely. We need to do all of those things to keep our donors. But one of the things that has emerged in recent years that is almost a hack, if you will, for retention and for annual revenue is recurring giving. And so when we think about retention, number one, we should think about annual appeals. Some people call this like annual fund, that sort of thing. But we should also talk about recurring giving. And that is an automated monthly gift, often in smaller amounts that add up to a larger amount of annual revenue for each donor. Because what recurring giving does is it does make it easier in some ways for the donor, and that they can automatically give each month. They can give a smaller amount that is easier to budget. It also makes them, in all cases, retain longer. They continue giving for a longer period of time. Now, there is a downside to this, in that if we don't have our cultivation in place, oftentimes this recurring gift can go out of sight, out of mind. And so we need to continue to try to grow the number of recurring donors that we have, but we need to remember that when giving is automated, they don't have that motivation every time. It just comes out of their checking account or their credit card. And so we need to double down on our cultivation efforts there. So retention, how are we going to keep this donor base growing? We don't want people to come in with a first-time gift and go right back out and lapse and never give to us again. And so continuing to cultivate people, continuing to include them in our appeals, and then hopefully converting a number of these people to recurring is one of the best ways to drive more annual revenue and average gift in that way. The second area that we need to focus on is upgrade. How do we continue to develop deeper relationships with people and understand how much they can give, and then ask them for those amounts? And this really goes into your data and your segmentation. Do I know how much people gave? Do I know how much capacity they have to give? And am I asking them for the right amount? Because if someone comes in with a $10 gift, the question is, can I get them to give 25? Do they have the capacity to do that? Or have they been with us long enough to do that? But ultimately, it's gonna come down to, did I ask them for $25? And so we need to factor in upgrade strategies for our donors. So as we're looking at these campaigns, and as we're looking at data and segmentation, we need to understand, do I have the ability to understand how much my donors are giving, how much they have given in the past, how much they have the capacity to give, and then do I have the ability to put that into place? So a lot of email systems can host this sort of CRM data in terms of past giving history, giving capacity, so that you can make the right ask to people at the right time. The way to maximize real revenue downstream and hopefully generate your next mid-level or major donor who can give a transformational gift to your organization is by, first off, keeping them giving, and second off, giving them opportunities to upgrade, targeted asks that say, would you be willing to take the next step and give a larger gift? All of this rolls up into average gift, annual revenue, to keep the donors that we're acquiring through traffic, conversion rate, and now average gift or annual revenue.